Hello, welcome everyone to our next session of Meet the Members of Empower Africa. I'm excited and honored to host this terrific podcast. My name is Shai Bernstein. I'm VP of Business Development and Partnerships at Empower Africa. And we're going to have one of these podcasts every Monday at 5 p.m. CAT, which is Central African Time, also known as GMT+2, also known as IDT, and many other acronyms. Before I present our distinguished guest, for those of you who are new and have not heard of Empower Africa yet, Empower Africa is a business community with a mission to drive investment, trade, and job creation in Africa. We believe in trade over aid and that business is the best way to build things and make a difference. Three verticals of the company. We have the first, the Empower Africa Business Network. The second, events and trade missions, doing a lot of virtual networking events, especially now, and consulting and project facilitation. We believe in bringing good people together in the power of synergy. Our membership is invite only. It's a paid membership, so we want to make sure that people can create value to each other. And the goal is to create connections, optimize communication, and maximize collaboration. Again, bringing together the investors, governments, startups, SMEs, multinational enterprises, and many more to one place. Speaking of bringing good people together, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome to the session Charles, also known as Chuck Pope from USAID. So welcome, Chuck.
Thanks, Shai. It's great to be with you all today, and again, really thankful that you've invited me and love the work that you all are doing. And it's great to be starting a relationship with you all.
Very excited as well. And actually recently, once we started speaking and we connected on LinkedIn, and then I just get a glimpse really at all the amazing work that you're doing and that you're involved in. And tell us a bit about yourself personally, about your role in USAID.
Sure. So in fact, I may know some of you members may have actually worked with you all. Currently, I'm the Senior Regional Advisor for the Middle East Bureau. I'm also a warranted Foreign Service Contracting Officer. So that means that I have a foot in the Middle East Bureau and I have a foot in the Management Bureau at USAID. My it's called Senior Regional Advisor, SRA. The SRA role is relatively new. It came out of effective partnering and procurement reform recommendations to essentially put a business mind, an acquisition and assistance mind in a regional bureau. I do have a colleague in the Africa Bureau that I hope to invite to some of these events in the future. It's a senior foreign service level position for those of you that are familiar with how USAID and the State Department run things. So again, the idea was to have a high-ranking foreign service officer, giving advice to essentially our assistant administrator for the Middle East Bureau. That's what I've been doing fairly recently. Last year, it was all COVID all the time. So I myself acted as a deputy assistant administrator in our Global Health Bureau, focused primarily on COVID response. And then before taking this position, I was actually the chief of operations in our Global Health Bureau, focused on COVID. So we're still, as an agency, as you can imagine, we still have an eye on COVID. In fact, our incoming administrator designee and our new president identifies COVID as our number one priority, eradicating COVID or neutralizing it, mitigating it, making it go away, whatever right. We want to use. But I've transitioned more this year to, instead of just being all COVID all the time, again, Middle East Bureau issues writ large.
Right. Wow. And so could you share a little bit, just about like COVID, I don't know where to start, right? Everyone across the globe is really kind of getting hit and has been getting hit and is dealing with their own challenges, right? And as we know, they're very different across the different regions. But can you give us a little bit of a taste of what you've been dealing with on that end?
Yeah, so again, I think this would resonate with many members. So there's COVID, the global health crisis, and then sort of the ancillary issues that COVID has unleashed. Making political systems a bit more fragile, increasing some chances of conflict, and we always want to mitigate conflict, eradicate conflict. There are entire, there's a year and a half of schooling has essentially been lost,
Right.
especially in a lot of the countries where we work, because they did not have the wherewithal to just all, do online learning. And so again, COVID is, we will, once the health crisis is over, we predict to be dealing with the aftermath of COVID for quite some time. As far as our response, and last year, before the vaccines were developed, we sent a lot of ventilators out. We were sort of in the ventilator business.
Right.
Imagine with with the vaccines developed, we're looking, we're heavily involved in that. So, but yeah, so we're going to be, it's still going to be COVID for quite some time.
Right. Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, look, it's throughout actually the continent, right, in Africa. It's really fascinating to see the differences and how different, not only countries are dealing with this madness that just struck all the world, right, but also in terms of the just the way I think governments and countries are continuing to function or lack thereof. I could tell you specifically, about Israel, completely lack thereof in terms of the, government, operating properly, but then at the same time having, some success with the vaccines. It's really impressive what the U.S. has been doing now, and I just hope that, really sooner we can see the light at the end of the tunnel with this, and I know that USAID and many other of the US government agencies are working a lot and working hard on, helping solve this. So, thank you, and we appreciate your, your service, and hopefully again we'll be looking at the light of the end of the tunnel of COVID really soon.
I hope so too.
Yeah. So it also, though, just before we continue to more positive things and again, looking forward just with good things, I do think that it, at least for me personally, and I know I'm not the only one, it really kind of forced us to really regroup within ourselves a bit, right? Whether it's individually, with the families, with our friends, right? And just kind of, not take for granted everything else that was going on and that is going on in our lives, right?
Absolutely. And so, I mean, this seems strange to say, but there are going to be some good effects, from COVID. There had been a lot of tension, work-life balance, and do you actually need to be in an office 9-10 hours a day, 5 days a week? And what this has all shown, and is actually my favorite meme when COVID hit, and the meme was, that job they said couldn't be done online, they're all being done online now. So, we're predicting even in the government, even at the agency, some real changes to our footprint. And it's as prosaic as, for the United States Agency for International Development to be competitive, to recruit the best and the brightest, we are going to have to offer more work-life balance options, as opposed to, like I say, just coming into an office and working in a queue.
100%.
Again, like, yeah, COVID has caused to pause, and to really to just recognize how precious life is, and what's the most important. And I think that heaven forbid, I I hope I don't see it, but there will be some sort of pandemic in the future. Another pandemic. I would hope that once we get through this, we remember the lessons. I mean, by most accounts, the world could have done a lot better job, stemming the spread
Very true.
of COVID. And, I mean, I guess, one thing I also have to say is while the trends are good in some countries, with COVID, the trends are not so good, in other countries, many of the countries that we're working. So again, like I say, we're, as we solve COVID in certain parts of the globe, hopefully that means that we can scale up and unleash those solutions, in other parts of the globe. And that is certainly USAID's vision.
100%. Fantastic. And so God's up. We're a lot of hard work. We're gonna make it happen. And so moving forward, can you share any interesting projects, initiatives that you guys are working on now?
Well, so we're in the midst of a new administration. So it's a little bit, it's sort of, there's always, whenever there's a presidential transition, there's a bit of an interregnum period, but just the things that are exciting about foreign assistance and, the United States' approach under Biden. So one of the things that Biden did, which was, I don't think any of us could remember this being done this early, but so pre-inauguration, he announced USAID's administrator designate, Ambassador Samantha Power. And so Ambassador Power, has a very expeditionary view on humanitarian assistance, democracy and governance. So that's good. I mean, so, instead of like waiting months and months and months. So, and by all accounts, she should be, in fact, maybe when this podcast is actually being broadcast, she will actually have already been confirmed. So that's exciting. The Agency for International Development now has a seat at the National Security Council, first time ever. So there's just a recognition by the Biden administration how important foreign assistance is. And again, sort of like, Empower Africa's tenets of partnership, we share those same ideals. And so the United States, under this administration, again, is going to look, by all accounts, is going to look to strengthen partnerships. There have been announcements about major plus ups to AID and the State Department's budget. So again, strategically, things, are going very, very well. Each administration, so basically I've heard, I think that Ambassador Powers talked about this as well. Certainly COVID response, number one. Prevention of conflict, again, prevention of conflict is very important in, the Middle East, anywhere in the world, frankly. The prevention of conflict, climate adaptation, because again, this administration recognizes that climate change is real and that we need to take steps to adapt to it at this point. And again, I mentioned this earlier, Ambassador Power is a huge proponent of democracy and governance. So, you could sort of look to USAID. She's got a lot of star power. So it's an exciting time to be at USAID and to be partnered with us. And I think that there will be increased opportunities for partners, and Ambassador Power will continue to push the agency, as did the previous administration, to broaden our partner base.
Right. Fantastic. And are there specific countries that you're focused on these days?
So by virtue of my, again, I mentioned I have a foot.
Right, a foot here.
Bureaus. So of course I'm advising, the Middle East Bureau. And so, again, I believe that there have been announcements. I would look for, a return of our mission in Tel Aviv for, supporting West Bank and Gaza. I would I would assume that those, that mission will become very, very important again. Again, as far as, again, it's just the Middle East,
Yeah.
we want to mitigate the conflict in Yemen, so again, it's just, there's
Right.
that. But because I have my foot also in the management bureau, that also gives me sort of a global like outlook. So again, although I think it will probably be called something a little bit different, the same notion will be there. Again, we had the effective partnering and procurement reform. I suspect that we will continue to do those things. It might be called something different.
Right.
You know, under the Obama administration, under Administrator Ross Shaw, it was called implementation and procurement reform.
Right.
So, I mean, again, I want to underscore the future for USAID is partnership. And again, sort of, it's very interesting, our goals and Empower Africa's goals. Again, we believe the future of aid is actually private sector engagement. And so, and again, it's just, we love when we put $1 in and somebody else puts $2 or $3 in. And
100%.
and so the future, gone are the days. In fact, this was under the previous administration and it really resonated. We are partnering with countries on their journey to self-reliance. And so, and we're looking at all, in fact, a lot of organizations in the US government will call this is our contractors. We call our family implementing partners. So partnering and partner is really, it's like part of our DNA now.
Yeah. Fantastic. Look, I mean, me personally and Empower Africa as a company, right? I mean, just we're huge believers in the partnerships. We're huge believers in instead of thinking about, who's making more or what money can be made here, let's make the pie bigger, right? I mean, there's so much that can be done together. And especially when we're talking about putting together private businesses and an organization like yours, specifically, just like you're mentioning, right? If you guys put in $1 and then we have another partner or two putting in $2-3, right? I mean, that's the best type of synergy out there, right? And each one brings also his know-how, his network, his connections. I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yep. I think I'd shared this with you before, Shai, in another conversation. So my last overseas post prior to coming to DC was India. And we were so proud in India because for every $1 we put in, somebody else put in $6. Again, it just the synergy and the partnership and just the scale. And then the other thing that was cool, and this is sort of like also the future of development as we look at, like I say, we'll partner with any benevolent power. So we and the Indians were going into basically East Africa and doing development projects together. So again, that was really, and there are only like a few places where we can do that: India, Indonesia, some another handful of countries. But when you can like do that, I mean, that's when it gets like really, I mean, that's India, the United States, and Malawi,
Wow.
like partnering on for Malawi, and it benefits all the partners. So that's, I mean, to see that unfold, I mean, that just, that gets you really excited.
100%. And that goes with the perfect alignment that we're talking about in terms of driving investment, trade, and job creation in Africa, and that's fantastic. So, I mean, and by the way, it's not only about Africa, right? It's the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So listen, first of all, we have a lot to talk about, offline to continue this conversation in terms of multiple different projects and partnerships that can and should be done. But before we wrap up this session and also here, as I mentioned to you, I always like to finish off with somebody sharing a specific quote or saying or concept that they resonate with and that inspires them. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the Empower Africa members. Anything you want to share, about things that can or should be done with Empower Africa outside and so on?
So, I'll say this, and it's basically for Empower Africa's consumption and the members' consumption. So, like for me, like I always like bang for buck. It's not to say that I can't have like one-on-one conversations, but I like to, I like to maximize impact by, so this group that you all have convened, like I prefer to speak to groups and it being like a conversation kind of setting. So, again, myself and my colleagues are going to continue to look for opportunities to, to work with associations, to work with groups, to convene partners and just have these kinds of conversations. And so, one of the things that I think will also happen, we started this in the last administration before we put the effective partnering and procurement reform recommendations in place, and the A&A strategy is like one of our buzzwords is listening tour. So it's not just USAID, talking, like we want to hear. I think you're going to see us deployed more to listen to our current and future implementing partners. Again, like I say, it's a partnership. It's talking, it's dialogue. And one of the reasons why the agency wants, why I can be effective in this role, because I know the procurement, I know what I can tell partners, and I know what I can't. Sometimes my aid colleagues will get a little bit nervous. Oh, what if they ask me a procurement question? It's procurement sensitive. And so one of the reasons they came up with a senior regional advisor position with a mandate to engage, because I can talk about everything. I know the rules, so and I can give as much. I want to give and that's Aid saying we want to be as transparent as possible. There are some things that we can't talk about. Things that are in active procurement are very hard for us to talk about. But things that are on our business forecast, yeah, we can talk about them.
Great.
So I'm looking forward to, continuing to engage with you all.
Fantastic. As do we. Wonderful. And to sum it up, what would
you want my quote?
Please.
Yeah. So I think, this, Shai, like I grew up on a farm and we had horses on our farm. And so there's this saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Throughout my, I don't know, it's almost now quarter of a century career of international development, I've worked in places where international development has quote unquote worked. And I think like many, and this also dovetails nicely with, Empower Africa's vision. Do you realize that many of the USAID or many of the United States' top trading partners currently were once aid recipients? South Korea, for instance, and of course, AID is essentially the successor to the Marshall Plan, reconstructing Europe after World War II. And so there are instances where international development has been a quote unquote success. But I've also been in places where, we've not been able to achieve, some of the outcomes. And so when I say that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, that actually speaks to partnership.
Right.
So like, I feel very proud of USAID and what you all are doing. We can lead these communities to water. We can give them, hopefully give them all the tools.
Right.
But we don't know, like I say, we don't know, whether or not, they're actually going to drink. And I find it very cool, very exciting when I've been involved when leading the horse to water and then he or she, subsequently drinking the water. So.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah, I totally resonate with that. I think it's a very powerful saying. And yeah, there's also just, I think maybe from a philosophical and cosmic aspect, maybe it's just kind of to show us how there's a limit to what we could do, maybe. In other words, there's so much work to do. We need to go at it. We need to, but maybe, because we can't, yeah. Chuck, thank you so much for joining us. Really great to hear about what you're working on, and look forward to discussing further. And yeah, talking about all these great partnerships and seeing how we can drive investment, trade, and job creation in Africa together.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Sure. Take care. Have a
See you,
good one.
Shai.
Stay safe and
You
healthy.
too. Thank you. You too. All right. All right. Bye-bye now.